Glad to have you back, and if you're just joining us, well, we are live at Plus TV Africa and bringing you updates from across the country. Voting has commenced in some areas, and we know that for sure President Muhammadu Buhari has already cast his vote. And we brought you other updates from across polling units in Lagos State, and other updates will be coming in as well from other polling booths. But first and foremost, before we go into other conversations, we'd like to take our viewer through the voting procedure, because that's one of the most important, wouldn't you say?
Yes, very important. And for those who do not know how to vote or what will happen or what to expect, here are a few things to look at. Step one. At the polling unit, join the queue. You must make sure that you're on a queue. An INEC official will check if you are at the correct polling unit and confirm that the PVC which you present belongs to you.
And step two, an INEC official will confirm if your PVC is genuine using the card reader. You will be asked to place your finger on the card reader.
Step three, an INEC official will ask for your PVC and confirm that you're listed in the voters register. Your name will be ticked and your finger will be linked or inked to confirm that you have voted. If your name is not found, then you cannot vote.
You cannot vote, definitely. And looking at step four, the presiding officer will stamp, sign and endorse your ballot paper. You will be given the ballot paper rolled with the printed side inwards and directed to the voting cubicle.
Step five, stain your finger with the ink given and mark the box for your preferred candidate or party. Roll the ballot paper in a manner you were given it and flatten it.
And step six, leave the voting cubicle and drop the ballot paper in the ballot box in view of people at the polling unit.
And step seven, leave the polling unit or wait, if you so choose, in an orderly and peaceful manner to watch the process up to the declaration of the results. And that's, it's easy peasy. Or if you know this, and it's just going to be easy for you. So there are people who are insistent that they must see the whole process through and get to find out, you know, what the votes, the results are at the end of the day, because the counting will be done at the polling unit before it goes to the collation center. But
most definitely.
These are the simple steps. We'll keep running them throughout the show for those who are just joining us, so you get to know what to expect when you get to the polling unit.
And hopefully the INEC officials at the different polling units would also educate them as they get there, so that we don't have as much of null and void ballot papers just wasted there. And joining us now to continue with our conversation in the studio, especially with updates that we've had and other feelers, we have Adeni Kuno. He's a media personality and a public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us, Adeni.
Thank you for having me.
And still in the studio, we still have Tuime Bawadu, a public affairs analyst. Now, gentlemen, well, Adeni, you weren't here initially. Finally, we have the election here, but we have a low turnout from INEC. Dara is doing pretty much fine. The card readers are working well. But here in Lagos State, we're still seeing them still yet to wake up. It doesn't rise and shine.
Yes, let me say this. The recent update in respect of the polling units, because I actually sampled opinions before I joined you guys in the studio, was that the vice president who usually casts his ballots just down the Lekki axis here, as of 8:30, there was no single polling unit officer, INEC officer there. Even Governor Kyumeambodi, I also spoke with some people who said at his polling unit, he came in as early as few minutes to 7 or past 7, and there is no single INEC officer, so he had to go back home. But for the vice president, who is usually vote around Lekki, there's no single INEC officer there. You have people ready, waiting to exercise their franchise. So the question has to be that why is it that at this period of time you don't have the necessary things at the polling unit? Then another thing that must be said dwells upon the same logistics issue that has to make us postpone this election by a week. So if Lagos is touted as center of excellence, why is it that Lagos is not living up to its billing? Because we saw very well some pictures in Katsina State where the president had actually cast his ballot, in Anambra State where Peter Obi has actually cast his ballot. So what is going on, especially at this area? Why is it that the vice president, particularly his polling unit, doesn't even have the presence of an INEC officer? And why is it that the governor of the state woke up as early as he should to exercise his franchise and still nobody's at his police. So I think questions should also be asked around that. I have driven around. I have the privilege of also having some access. I went around and in some areas voting has started. In certain areas, even on this island, voting has not begun because there is no presence of INEC officers. So these things are very important that we have to factor into the next line of electioneering, because we have to address those things or else we wouldn't get it right.
But you see, I asked the same question when you were not around. Do we always have to make the same mistakes over and over and over again? When are we going to be very, very proactive when it comes to issues that affect each and every one of us, instead of waiting to be reactionary and then we say, oh, let's hold on, next time we'll do a better job? We had 2017, we had 2018. Let's not even go further back. 2017 and 2018, there were by-elections held in several parts of the country. Could that not have been enough of a litmus test to avoid this kind of situation? And there is no traffic that you would say that would be an excuse. The streets are as empty as possible.
Yes, you'd agree with me that the impact of the postponement has actually affected the decisiveness of people. Do not forget that some people who traveled have returned, and nobody wants to spend such money twice going back to their respective villages to cast their ballots. They're talking about safety. Even if you have all the money to travel around, safety is of essence.
But what about those in Lagos? Because we are still here in Lagos, and you say the turnout is...
I have to say that if you talk about Lagos, you should understand the mindset of the people. Lagos is a very cosmopolitan place. It is not a one-way traffic state in terms of people's decision. Many persons in Lagos, even the wannabes, really would want to let you know that we can make decisions on certain things. There were certain questions she asked about why we've not been able to tidy up our loose ends. If we did a comparison between the United States and Nigeria, because oftentimes we have to refer to them having modeled our pattern of governance and our pattern of, politicking, as it were, to theirs, except, of course, we don't have electoral college here. You'd find out that the democracy they practice is in excess of 200 years as an entity. Nigeria will turn 59 this year, appropriately so. And in that 59 years, you can actually put over half of that as the years that the military took away from us. I'm not making excuses, but I have to be holistic in my analysis here. Now, talking about INEC, I think that we also need a lot of catching up to do in respect of how technologies develop. The card reader introduction was 4 years ago by Professor Atahiru Jega, and I had hoped that Professor Mahmoud Yakub would have understood the importance of taking cognizance of the failures of Atahiru Jega, making it a case study so that they can prevent certain things. He talked about weather the last time as one of the reasons why we didn't have the election. He said the only reason why this election may be postponed is an act of God. The phenomena and the activities are acts of God. So the weather he described as one of the reasons happened to be an act of God. But if you subject such act of God to meteorological provisions, you would actually be ahead of your game. That is why we have weather forecasts 2 weeks ahead. So perhaps he didn't understand the importance of leveraging the technology available to counteract any possibility that will prevent the smooth running of the elections. So coming back to Lagos, that you'd expect people to have the political sensitiveness or the political ideas or to be on top of their game in terms of, okay, this is Lagos, we have to participate. There are a number of things. Do not forget that the discussions even in Lagos have been diverse. If you're following social media in the past 1 week, you see that some persons feel that the postponement itself was because of certain political interests. And immediately people begin to see that what they want to do from the bottom of their heart wouldn't count. They begin to retract because information, negative or positive, actually has impact when it is in its numbers.
Don't you think that if you are denied something, so far as you are passionate about it, you are driven to ensure you reach that destination, you should remain unshaken and come out and march?
It is not everybody who...
But Mr. Denny, Nigerians are at polling units as we speak. They're not deterred. But the INEC officials are still strolling in at this time of the day. So
if I may
I don't think Nigerians are to be blamed here.
If I may come in, let's honestly be factual about this.
Yeah.
INEC is not communicating with us sufficiently.
Okay.
We expect that in a place like Lagos, in a cosmopolitan place like Lagos, will have a center where INEC could disseminate information to every medium to say that in this place, in that place, this is what we are experiencing. That will now help all the media, to give the information to people in different platforms that this is what INEC is having, this is what we're witnessing. By so time, this was going to happen.
INEC does have a situation room, actually.
What is going on in the situation room?
Well,
have you called them? Have they communicated with you in their situation room why they should not be at the polling unit as at 9 o'clock? I mean, why the vice president cannot vote at that time? Why the Lagos State governor will be at the polling unit at around 7 o'clock and no INEC official is there? Why a place like Alausa, a hub of the capital of the state, is not having presence of INEC officials? These are critical issues. INEC is not communicating with us. The situation room is just by name. The situation room does nothing in educating us, in telling us what should happen. We are just here speculating and wondering why this should happen. It shouldn't be. INEC should be on top of their games and telling us that in so places, this is what we're experiencing. Wait for the next 10 minutes, people are there on the way and all that. So that we don't get have apprehension, unnecessary apprehension that we shouldn't have. INEC should communicate.
I want to add that around, talking about 20 to 8, if you go through Yaba, there's a part St. Agnes. I saw people bringing to that St. Agnes, I saw a police officer, I saw voting material, I saw, INEC boxes. I feel that if people had to do anything at all, I don't know if that's the right place they should be at that time. I saw one police officer, if you're aware, with St. Agnes Road, if you're going towards Yaba. Now, when I looked at them, I actually slowed down in the course of driving to observe what was going on. I just didn't feel comfortable. I'm not saying that maybe there's something untoward that is happening, but even if those persons that I saw are INEC officers, for the genuinity of it, you'd have expected them to be at certain polling centers as of that time.
When they were INEC officials, they would actually wear the vests.
That's around the headquarters of INEC. That's Harvey Road.
Yes, Harvey Road. That's around. I agree.
INEC
good. My own is but the people I saw were just those who got off a bus. I feel that whatever it is, they should have moved away from there to another place where perhaps they have their responsibilities cut out for them. So if we talk about the issue of people not really getting the right kind of deal from INEC, I think that this past week the communication would have been consolidated at the respective states where you'd have blow-by-blow accounts. As a matter of fact, one would have expected INEC to create a WhatsApp page apart from this. How many the phone lines could jam? Create for Lagos, for instance, we have in Lagos 5-6 political divisions. Create a particular WhatsApp group and tell people you can join this WhatsApp group, or you can send. Maybe they have to customize the WhatsApp group where you can only send messages about your word. Then INEC will have that right. Okay, I will respond to you, because if you look at it, technology has eased some of the problems of communication.
And talking about communication, we have some feedback as well from some voters across different polling units in the state and sending in their own condemnation. At the end of the day, well, INEC has done good.
Yeah, well, they're reacting to the lateness of INEC officials and the fact that the elections or the proceedings are not starting as at when due. Of course, a lot of frustration will be in the air. But let's take a look at that report.
My name is Nne Isikalu. You're here. You're not ready. What's your reaction? Well, anytime they come, we're waiting. We'll be here waiting for them. So you're ready to go? Very, very ready to go.
My name is Ken Okoye. I'm at the Sunday Digo Cafe Street polling booth in Alausa, Ikeja, Lagos.
It's past 8 o'clock and there is no INEC staff here. There doesn't seem to be any preparedness so far. What's your thought about that?
Well, we are waiting for them, but we have security personnel here, the press is here, and voters are waiting. I believe they'll show up and we'll get to vote today. It's the longer awaited day.
Are you optimistic your candidate will win?
Definitely. I'm convinced my candidate will win.
All right. That's a Lausa.
Yes, that's definitely. And then we also have Oshibajo's Vice President, Yemi Oshibajo's SSA on Media and Publicity, Laulu Akonde, who also spoke on INEC's late arrival at Unit 2, Code 33 VGC polling unit.
Exactly.
It's really sad that we don't have the INEC official station.
Yes.
And Kemi also sent in a report as well. She said that 8:59 she now saw Unit 29. She saw some INEC officials just walking in.
Same thing for certain places like Apapa. Somebody, one of our
Amaka.
Yeah, Amaka also talked about the fact that they showed up late and there's so many people hanging around waiting for them. One of our reporters also did send somewhere, I think from the island, she didn't give us an exact location, saying that at 8:59, that's when INEC officials started showing up. And they were supposed to be there even before 8 o'clock. So if Nigerians are showing up earlier than the people who are supposed to be there to prep everything. So it means there's going to be, they're eating into more time. They're eating up more time, getting the card readers ready, getting the the ballot papers, everything, setting up their stands. It's just going to take forever.
Do we not get to school before our teachers? Do we not get to government functions?
So it's a Nigerian problem.
I'm saying that it's a genetic anomaly for many Nigerians. Because a situation where, for instance, the president calls a conference and the president gets there 2-3 hours after the people is to speak with her there, and the president walks in gallantly without the remorse of messing up. Now, I'm just using the president generally now. I'm not saying it is characteristic of the current president, but it is characteristic of many public officers and even individuals that when they are the one who convene a program, they feel it is prestigious to come there late. A teacher ordinarily should be in school before the student because you have to receive them in. You are the one hosting them.
So, don't you think that 8 o'clock should be 8 o'clock if we had last week INEC receiving a backlash, and this week INEC received some level of commendation for the updates, and now, like you also pointed out, they should be consolidating on all of the efforts so far and not give any room to identify flaws.
I do not think, I know that is the reality, that whatever happened last week should not be given room to have some kind of repetition. India has over 400 political parties. As a matter of fact, some people go to the polling centers the night before, they sleep there with even the sensitive materials. That is a country that has an excess of 1 billion population, not Christians, not Muslims, but they are Hindu. India has over 150 Muslims for the record. I need to say that on the sidelines. But India has people who do not claim to be Christians or Muslims, and they are over 1 billion, yet they can be trusted enough to go to the polling centers the night before with the sensitive materials, and there will not be alteration. What is the importance of banding and religiosity up and down when we are full of corruption? Even the people...
Is it a religious thing?
It is. It has to be...
No, just hold on.
Religion...
What does value systems and morals have to do with religion? If we all are... I mean, whether it's in a secular world or a religious world, morals and ethics and codes have a standard, whether you're Christian or Muslim or whatever.
This country has factored in values, morals as emanations from religious institutions, because in the secular society they are not there.
But that's before the religious people came to us with religion, we were very traditional people, and we still have
why did you show your own way? Was it forced upon you even in the 21st century?
You see, in evolution of a nation state, a lot of things happen that can change the trajectory or the motion of where you go to. But again, what we're experiencing didn't just happen. It's not a 100-meter dash. It cropped on us gradually. We gradually devalue morals. We gradually discourage good behavior. We gradually refuse to pay good thinking, intellectualism, and good behavior. So as we go into that, and we see, and when the leadership starts showing that, like Kunu mentioned, when we are supposed to be here by 8 o'clock, and you just walk in at 9 and no remorsefulness, no nothing, you are sending a cue down to the next.
Not doing any form of publicity for the president, but he was there in his at his polling unit. He got accredited and he's cast his vote.
That's where the first camera will be. You know that. That's where the first camera.
We can pay as much attention to that. Why can't we replicate things? Because at the end of the day, does that mean that the president is the only important individual in the country?
He's the first citizen.
Even if he is the first citizen.
Could that also be counted as eye service?
Eye service.
Because if you're doing that, if you're doing due diligence in Daura, why are you not doing same in Lagos, in Ekiti, in Adamawa? Why is the same due diligence? If we are truly keeping the faith with,
after all, Lagos State has a state governor. We have we have political actors who are here.
Vice presidents. I mean,
have not gotten the ability to cast a vote.
Essentially, what we're saying, we're not too far from each other in this discussion, because the thing is this: INEC is not performing as expected.
What level of communication do you now expect
that's exactly
from the
what we're
INEC
saying.
Chairman? Because if you said you've distributed all of these materials to the closest wards and polling units and whatsoever, it shouldn't be so difficult if you've also provided accommodation for your staff to get to the polling units.
Again, you see, at the level of INEC, the INEC chairman said everything is ready. You have to rely on the resident electoral commissioner in each of the states to ensure that lower down this readiness is replicated. Okay. Now, no matter how much enthusiasm or credibility that INEC chairman wants to have, he needs to rely on a chain.
He communicates with all of these reps across the 36 states.
At the level of the chain down there, if anybody's not doing this well, because at this point now, we need to ask the electoral commissioner in charge of Lagos what exactly is happening. He needs to communicate to us. He needs to tell us exactly why we're experiencing this. Why is it that in a Lagos that is, when I was working in Badagry General Hospital, I drove from Badagry to see my mother at Ejiri. It's less than 2 hours on an environmental day. So the extent of Lagos in a place where there's no traffic movement is not much in terms of transportation and movement. Why should it be in a cosmopolitan state like Lagos? We're not seeing top-notch performance, and all we're seeing is excuses. This is not happening. Nobody should allow this to happen. Somebody should be able to ask questions, because if you don't ask questions,
impressed? Talking about asking questions, are you impressed? Because Adeni, you made mention of the fact that the state governor actually arrived at his polling unit at about past 7.
Yes,
he could have decided to wait to 8 o'clock at the time where accreditation is expected to open, and he should have asked questions. Why can't I cast my vote?
Who is going to ask questions?
When the INEC officers are not there, he wouldn't ask, for instance, the people who have come to vote as well. The reason Laolu Akonde put up that particular message is because there was nobody to ask questions. You wouldn't get answers. So what did he do? He had to inform the public that I have performed my civic responsibility by coming early enough. The voting time should be 8, but unfortunately, the people who should be here are not here. But let us also examine, up until yesterday evening or morning, before noon, I listened to Femi Akimbi, one of INEC's helmsmen in Lagos, I think the rec or the publicity secretary here in Lagos, and he spoke very beautifully about the readiness of INEC officials. Yesterday, he spoke about 24 hours ago. I listened to him. In fact, if I dug deep, I could get the audio that we're ready, everything is tidied up. He talked about call members and all of the things that they've settled. And I said, this is absolutely beautiful. Then you have to look at the people also who have responsibility to take these voting materials to the different areas. Because, for instance, in Katsina, I saw how disgruntled the resident electoral commissioner there felt. He expressed it, and he said it emphatically that they are ready to do all that has to be done. So, obviously, while some people in Lagos were still snoring, the one in Katsina stayed awake to ensure that people moved out as early as pre-dawn to make sure that these things get to where it has to get to. So again, we may not place this blame entirely on the shoulders of Mahmoud Yakub. We're talking about 84 million people, talking about 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. So it has to do with the resident electoral commissioners in the respective states that should actually be tackled on this issue for them to give account.
As the show continues, we will hopefully speak with him live on the show. We will try to talk with the
resident electoral commissioner
here.
in Lagos State.
Hopefully he'll be taking a lot of phone calls, I guess, but we'll try to talk with him, or maybe the director of voter education here in Lagos. Somebody has to speak to us about
Most definitely. Please don't forget to send in all of your reports, videos, pictures. We would like to have your feedback, and remember to use our iReport feature that's on WhatsApp. Send us all of your videos. When you cast your vote, let us know, and with your name and your location, please let us know what is happening all around you. Send your pictures and videos.
Well, we do have our correspondent, Felicity Ezewike, who is standing by in Ikeja. She's going to be giving us live report as to what's happening. The last time we spoke with her, elections had not, the proceedings had not started.
Exactly.
Officials had not showed up, but hopefully the story might change. I think she's on standby right now.
Hello, Felicity.
Hello.
Now, Felicity, quickly bring us up to speed. We know you're out on Sunday at the Cafe Street, Alausa, polling unit 047. Has queuing started for accreditation? What's the status update?
Yes, there's been queuing. Accreditation and voting has already commenced. We've had about 2 or 3 people cast their vote already. Accreditation and the whole process started about 9:15 a.m. with an announcement by the presiding officer, Zainab Priti Abu. The usual queue arguments came before you, didn't come before me. Aside from that, there's been a very, very peaceful process here. Security presence is seen, election officials, observers, the media, everyone is here on standby watching as things unfold.
So how long did it take for the polling officials to get there? And did you see any known faces talking about politicians? We are made to understand that the leader of the APC, the national leader, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is supposed to be voting or casting his vote at that same polling unit.
Yes, this is his polling unit, but as of now, we haven't seen him. But we do know that this is where he usually casts his votes.
All right, interesting.
Now, quickly, Felicity, did you try to press a little further why the delay in the arrival of the INEC officials beyond the blame game? Because you made mention of that they were pointing fingers at each other.
Unfortunately, we couldn't speak to them because immediately they came down from their vehicle, they started unpacking their equipment and materials to commence the process. However, one would expect that some of these logistics challenges would come up. But the most important thing, like you heard some of the voters that I spoke with earlier, saying that it really doesn't matter if they are 30 or 1 hour late, they will wait and cast their vote. And like I said, they've already started the process. Accreditation has commenced. Some persons have already cast their vote. So from my end, everything is going smoothly. We're still hoping, of course, to see the leader of the APC, Bola Tinubu, come to cast his vote. But until then, we'll be giving you updates on what is going on here.
Well, quickly, Felicity, before you run along, how is the turnout like exactly? Do we have a flood of people, or they're still trickling in little numbers?
I'm moving out now to see. The line is not that long, but it seems people still are coming in. It's not too much of a crowd, but people are coming in to cast their votes. Actually, when information came out that the INEC officials had arrived, we saw some people running out of their houses. We were able to capture some of those videos, but we couldn't send it in.
Interesting.
So apparently people showed up and then left. So Felicity, apparently people came out and then they went back home because they didn't see anybody on ground, right?
I presume that would have been the case because somehow they got information that the staff have arrived and they all came out again. And people were, there was no sense of anger or anything. People knew that sometimes these things happen, so they just wanted to cast their vote, and they're still here. Some of them are just patiently sitting down waiting for their turn.
All right, one last question, Felicity, before I let you go. Do you do you are you asking people, about the fact that, if they are really resolute as to, casting these votes, is there any form of voter apathy? Are all their family members ready to vote, or are there people who are sitting at home and feeling like, oh, well, there's nothing to it, it's just the same old, same old? Have you been trying to find out from them how they feel?
Marianne, it is only somebody that's passionate that will come out here today and patiently wait. And all of them, there was one particular man I spoke with. He actually woke up this morning at about 3 a.m., left his home at 4 a.m. He said he's ready to wait until however long it takes for him to cast his vote. So I don't see any sort of apathy here at all. Rather, I see enthusiastic Nigerians who are willing and eager to cast their vote no matter what.
Is the voting process moving on very fast and smoothly?
Yes, from my vantage point right now, it is moving slowly but surely. People are just doing what they need to do, and everything is in full view of the public.
So card readers are working well at Sunday at the Gun Cafe Street, Alausa?
Yes, so far we haven't had any contrary information. But of course, I'm here, I'm on the ground. I will bring you up to speed visually and with audio as well, what is happening, so you know and can inform Nigerians.
Thank you very much, Felicity. Great job you're doing. Keep us abreast with whatever's happening in Ikeja. Thank you very much. Well,
Thank you.
All right, well, it's a good start, I guess.
Yes, definitely.
If everything is working smoothly, because, the kind of questions that were posed yesterday to the Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman Rotimi Oyekemi was issues such as card readers. Remember in 2015, Goodluck Jonathan in Otueke could not vote because the card reader couldn't read, and then there are situations and circumstances where people had to go wash their finger to try again. We're hoping that doesn't, reoccur.
Well, at least Sunday at the Gun Cafe Street, the polling units there, 047, is still one out of a number of polling units, and hopefully we get good feedback from other polling units as we are counting down the hours. But quickly, gentlemen, just weighing on your thoughts. Some voters actually rushed out on site of the INEC officials to come and cast their votes, and they were not necessarily angry.
Yeah, again, that's been resolute. And I want to encourage every Nigerian who's gotten a PVC to be resolute and cast his or her votes. So again, we need that kind of passion, we need that kind of determination, we need that kind of energy to drive the country, because as long as we see that our votes count, then we will further participate in the democratic process. And for the first time, we're seeing critical issues being discussed at the polity. It's more of where are you going now? Do we sustain this thing? Do we fight this war of corruption? Do we drive the economy? Do we do this, that? Do we follow the process? I mean, yes, slow, but surely, if we continue that trajectory, honestly, we'll be able to discuss critical issues that will affect the polity. And we can't get to this point if we don't remain resolute and vote.
Let's compare today.
Yes.
To 2003. Are there any similarities? Are there any differences? I mean, the sheer joy of jumping out of your house and saying, they're here, let's go and line up. Is there anything that we can draw from 2003 comparing to what we have today?
Well, if you look at 2003, you'd agree with me that democracy returned in 1999 to the country, beginning another republic, and people's excitement appears to still be up there. In terms of those who came out, well, if you look at it, it's supposed to be another phase, because 1999 to 2003 meant, okay, they rounded off a first phase. A man sought to go the second time in the person of Olusegun Obasanjo. The main man that is the president now was a contender as well, and all of that. And people felt, okay, eyes are open, let's get out there. But could we leave that era and come to the realities of the now? Because between then and now, we've had an election that the president agreed to in 2007 that it wasn't the right kind of process that brought him to power in the person of Shehu Musa Yar'Adua. So between 1999, 2003 to 2007, we've had a lot of issues that I would appreciate not to really go back to, except of course if we want to do retrospective analysis to solve problems for the now. So let's look at 2015. It is very obvious that the postponement has actually dampened the enthusiasm of people. But has it taken away the resoluteness for them to actually exercise their franchise? I'd say no, especially with what your reporter told us. People felt, okay, we wouldn't wait in the sun since INEC doesn't have the constitutional mandate to provide shelters for people who have come to vote. So it's only sensible that if there's proximal, locale, you can actually take advantage of that, get back in and come forward. So I think in terms of people wanting to do what should be done, even if it is not in as much numbers as we hope it should be, I think it is only okay from what we've heard and from other quarters. In fact, the fact that people even go to the polling centers even before many of these INEC officers is indicative of their readiness to at least stake a claim in this particular process.
Well, we'll continue the conversation and we'll keep giving you live feed from all our correspondents, and of course you too, like we said earlier on, can be our eyewitness reporter. Just feel free to take videos, pictures of you at your polling units. If you see anything that is happening that is, somewhat not necessarily supposed to happen, please also let us have that feed. You can report the news with us, send your story to us on WhatsApp. The number is on your screen. Videos, pictures, and on Twitter you could also do that with the hashtag Nigeria Decides, hashtag #PlusTV. You can also tag @PlusTV Africa. We'll take a short break and the news will come right after that. Nigeria Decides will continue
in just a moment.